The coffee shop, the Roasted Bean, smelled of roasted hazelnut and rain. It was a quintessentially gray Seattle afternoon, the kind that made the warmth of the indoors feel like a secret. Lyra Sterling sat in a booth near the back, checking her watch for the fourth time in 2 minutes. She straightened the sleeves of her charcoal blazer, then smoothed a non-existent wrinkle on her slacks. She was a structural engineer. She built things that didn't fall down. But her current life felt like a skyscraper swaying in a hurricane. Her parents were arriving from Vermont in 3 hours. Lyra. The voice was like warm honey. Lyra looked up. Standing there was a woman who looked like she had just stepped out of an indie folk album cover. She wore a mustard yellow cardigan over a vintage floral dress, and her hair was a riot of chestnut curls tied back loosely with a silk ribbon. "You must be Thea," Lyra said, standing up a little too quickly. She extended a hand. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." Thea shook her hand. Her grip was firm but soft, her skin warm against Lyra's icy fingers. "Please call me Thea. And it's no trouble. Your profile said this was an emergency." "A level 5 emergency," Lyra said, gesturing for Thea to sit. "My parents think I've been dating a pediatrician named Jay for 6 months. They are here for their 40th anniversary, and they insisted on meeting Jay. I couldn't exactly tell them Jay was a fiction I invented to get them to stop setting me up with the son of their dentist." Thea smiled, and her eyes crinkled at the corners. They were a striking shade of moss green. "So I'm Jay? Or rather, the female equivalent." "You're Thea," Lyra corrected, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "This is half the payment up front, as per the agency website. The other half is yours on Sunday evening when they leave. Your backstory is in there too. You like hiking, you volunteer at the animal shelter, and we met at a farmer's market over a dispute regarding organic kale." Thea laughed, a bright, melodic sound that made a few people look over. "Organic kale? That's very specific." "I panic under pressure," Lyra admitted, feeling a flush rise to her cheeks. "Look, the rules are simple. We hold hands if necessary. We smile. We look fond. But that's it. My parents are old-fashioned, but they are polite. They just want to know I'm not alone." Thea tucked a stray curl behind her ear, her expression shifting from amused to gentle. "Hey, breathe. I've got this. I'm a professional companion. I can do fond in my sleep. We're going to be fine." Lyra chuckled, and felt the first knot in her chest loosen. Okay, good." The arrival of the Sterlings was a whirlwind of luggage, hugs that lasted too long, and immediate interrogation. "She's taller than I expected," Lyra's mother, Martha, whispered loudly as Thea helped load suitcases into the trunk of Lyra's pristine SUV. "And stronger," her father, Robert, added approvingly. The drive to the Airbnb was tense for Lyra, but Thea was a miracle worker. From the passenger seat, she twisted around to face the back, engaging Robert in a deep conversation about Vermont maple syrup versus Pacific Northwest honey. By the time they parked, Robert was already laughing, a rare sound. That evening, they went to a quiet Italian bistro. The lighting was dim, the candles flickering in red glass jars. This was the first real test. "So," Martha said, clasping her hands over the tablecloth. "The farmer's market. Lyra told us about the kale incident. But who asked whom out first?" Lyra froze. She hadn't scripted that part. Thea didn't miss a beat. She turned to Lyra, her gaze softening into something that looked terrifyingly like adoration. She reached across the table and covered Lyra's hand with her own. "I did," Thea said softly. "I felt bad about snatching the last bunch. I offered to buy her a coffee as a peace offering. But honestly, I just wanted an excuse to talk to her. She looked so intense. So focused. I wanted to know what she was thinking about." Lyra stared at Thea. For a second, the ambient noise of the restaurant faded. The way Thea looked at her, it wasn't just a professional look. It felt heavy anchored. That's right," Lyra stammered, playing along. "I was thinking about a bridge design. And you distracted me." "Best distraction of my life," Thea quipped, turning back to Martha with a dazzling smile. Lyra looked down at their joined hands. Thea's thumb was absent-mindedly brushing over Lyra's knuckles. It was a rhythmic, soothing motion. It was supposed to be a prop, a visual cue for her parents. But Lyra felt a strange warmth travel up her arm, settling somewhere near her heart. She didn't pull away. Saturday was the day of the excursion. The Sterlings wanted to see the famous Seattle waterfront, despite the biting wind. They walked along the pier, the scent of salt water and fried fish hanging in the air. The wind was relentless, whipping hair across faces and turning noses pink. You're shivering, Thea noted. Lyra hugged her coat tighter. I forgot my scarf. I'm fine. Don't be silly. Thea stopped walking. She unwound the thick, hand-knitted scarf from her own neck. It was a deep burgundy wool. Gently, she draped it around Lyra, looping it twice. They were standing close. Very close. Lyra could smell Thea's perfume, something like vanilla and old books. Thea adjusted the scarf, her fingers grazing Lyra's jawline for a fraction of a second. The touch was electric, yet soft as a feather. Better? Thea asked, her voice low. Yeah, Lyra breathed, unable to look away from Thea's green eyes. Much better. But now you're cold. I run warm, Thea dismissed, tucking her hands into her coat pockets. Besides, I have you to block the wind. Martha and Robert were walking ahead, taking photos of a ferry boat. You're doing a great job, Lyra said quietly as they resumed walking. They love you. My dad actually showed you pictures of his fishing trip. He never does that. They're sweet people, Thea said. She bumped her shoulder gently against Lyra's. And it's not hard to pretend to like you, Lyra. You're easy company. I am. Lyra frowned. Most people find me rigid. Boring. Not boring, Thea corrected. Structured. There's a difference. You care about details. You care about safety. It shows in how you treat them. You've been checking the pavement for uneven cracks so your mom doesn't trip. I noticed. Lyra stopped walking again. No one had ever noticed that. I just worry. I know, Thea said. It's nice. It means you have a big heart, even if you try to armor it with coldness. Lyra felt a lump form in her throat. This wasn't in the script. This wasn't about the kale or the fake dates. This was Thea seeing her. Come on, Thea said, offering her elbow. Your dad is eyeing a churro stand. We should probably intervene before he buys a dozen. Lyra took Thea's arm, holding on a little tighter than necessary. Walking beside her, against the gray backdrop of the Puget Sound, the world felt a little less chaotic. That night, they stayed in at Lyra's apartment. The plan was a casual game night to show domestic bliss. Lyra's apartment was modern, minimalist, and frankly a little cold. But Thea had transformed it. She had found blankets Lyra forgot she owned, brewed a pot of herbal tea that filled the room with the scent of chamomile, and put on a soft jazz playlist. They were playing Pictionary. Thea and Lyra were a team against Martha and Robert. Okay, Lyra whispered, looking at the card. I can draw this. I can do this. I believe in you, Thea whispered back, leaning in so their shoulders pressed together on the sofa. Lyra began to sketch furiously on the whiteboard. It was a series of lines, a circle, and some jagged edges. Sun! Thea shouted immediately. Explosion! Supernova! Lyra shook her head, drawing a stick figure with a hat. Farmer! Gardener! Scarecrow! Thea was leaning forward, her eyes bright with competitive spirit. Lyra tapped the jagged lines. Lightning! Thea guessed. Storm! Thunder! Lyra pointed at the stick figure, then the lightning. Harry Potter! Thea screamed, throwing her hands up. Yes! Lyra laughed, capping the marker. They high-fived, but in the excitement, the high-five turned into Thea grabbing Lyra's hand and squeezing it. They sat there for a moment, breathless with laughter, their hands clasped on the sofa cushion between them. Robert chuckled from the armchair. You two are on the same wavelength. It took Martha and me 10 years to get that kind of shorthand. Lyra's smile faltered slightly. It felt real. That was the problem. The adrenaline of the win, the warmth of Thea, the safety of her hand in Thea's grip, it all felt dangerously real. Later, while Martha and Robert were getting ready for bed in the guest room, Lyra found Thea in the kitchen, washing the mugs. You don't have to do that, Lyra said, leaning against the doorframe. It's not in the contract. Thea shut off the water and turned around, drying her hands on a towel. I like cleaning. It helps me think. Think about what? Thea hesitated. She looked down at the granite countertop. About how this is going to be over tomorrow. The silence that stretched between them was thick. You're really good at this, Thea, Lyra said, her voice quiet. My parents. I've never seen them this relaxed around me. They think I'm happy. And that makes them happy. And are you? Thea looked up, her gaze piercing. Happy. Lyra crossed her arms, protecting herself. I'm relieved. You've fulfilled the terms of the agreement perfectly. A shadow crossed Thea's face. She nodded, her professional mask slipping back into place. Right. The agreement. Glad to be of service, Lyra. She walked past Lyra to the living room where she was sleeping on the pull-out couch. As she passed, the air felt colder, as if the heater had suddenly broken down. Sunday morning was a blur of goodbyes. You take care of her, Thea, Robert said, hugging Thea tightly at the airport terminal. She works too hard. Make her take vacations. I will, Thea promised, her voice sounding a little strained. And you, Martha said, cupping Lyra's face. You look lighter, honey. I'm so glad you found her. She's a keeper. Yeah, Lyra said, her chest aching. She is. They watched the older couple disappear through the security checkpoint. They waved until they were out of sight. The moment they were gone, the dynamic shifted. The bubble popped. They walked back to the parking garage in silence. When they reached Lyra's car, Thea didn't get in. I can catch a cab from here, Thea said. It's easier. You don't have to drive me back to the city. Don't be ridiculous, Lyra said, unlocking the doors. I'm driving you. Lyra, please. Thea's voice was tired. It's been a long weekend. The job is done. Lyra froze, her hand on the door handle. She looked over the roof of the car at Thea. Thea looked exhausted, the sparkle gone from her eyes. Okay, Lyra said softly. She reached into her purse and pulled out the second envelope. She had prepared it the night before. Here, the rest of the fee, plus a tip. You really went above and beyond. Thea looked at the envelope as if it might bite her. She took it slowly. Thanks. Thea, Lyra started, but she didn't know how to finish the sentence. Don't go. I like you. Please come back and drink tea in my apartment. Take care, Lyra, Thea said. She offered a small, sad smile, turned on her heel, and walked toward the elevator banks. Lyra stood in the concrete garage, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. She felt ridiculous. She felt like a bridge with a missing pylon. She is a professional, Lyra told herself. She was nice to you because you paid her. But then she remembered the scarf. She remembered Thea guessing Harry Potter in 3 seconds. She remembered the way Thea's thumb had brushed her knuckles at dinner, where her parents couldn't even see it. That wasn't for the audience. That was for Lyra. Damn it, Lyra whispered. She locked the car and ran toward the elevators. She caught the doors just as they were sliding shut, jamming her arm in the gap. The sensors triggered, and the doors bounced open. Thea was standing in the corner of the elevator, the envelope clutched in her hand. She looked startled. Lyra? Did you forget something? Lyra stepped inside, breathing hard. The doors slid shut behind her, enclosing them in the small metal box. I lied, Lyra said. Thea blinked. About the kale? No. About the contract. Lyra took a step forward. You asked if I was happy, and I gave you a corporate answer. I said I was relieved. Thea watched her warily. Okay. I wasn't just relieved, Lyra confessed, the words tumbling out fast. I was happy. Actually happy. I haven't been that relaxed in years. And it wasn't because my parents were off my back. It was because you were there. Thea softened, the tension in her shoulders dropping. Lyra, I know this is your job, Lyra continued, wringing her hands. I know you're good at being what people need you to be. But the way you looked at me in the restaurant, the way you wrapped that scarf around me, was that all just the premium package? Thea looked down at her boots. She was quiet for a long moment. When she looked up, her eyes were vulnerable. I broke a rule, Thea said quietly. What? Agency rule number 1. Do not get emotionally involved with the client. Thea let out a shaky breath. I'm usually very good at it. But you made it really hard. Lyra's heart hammered against her ribs. Why? Because you're so genuine, Thea said, taking a small step closer. You try so hard to be perfect for everyone else. I just wanted to be the one person who took care of you. That touch at dinner? The scarf? That wasn't in the script, Lyra. That was just me, wanting to be close to you. Lyra felt the tension of the last 3 days, the last 3 years, really evaporate. So, Lyra asked, her voice trembling slightly. The contract is over now. Thea held up the envelope. Well, technically, our business transaction is concluded. Technically, Lyra agreed. So, Thea smiled, and this time it was shy. Not the confident fake girlfriend, but just a girl asking a question. If I were to ask you out for coffee, real coffee, not a prop for a meet-cute story, would you say yes? Lyra smiled, a genuine, wide smile that reached her eyes. I don't know. I'm pretty busy. I have a very demanding job. Thea raised an eyebrow, a playful glint returning to her eyes. I hear you like structural engineering. I do. Well, I'd love to hear about it. Maybe over dinner? No parents allowed. Lyra reached out. She didn't shake Thea's hand this time. Instead, she took both of Thea's hands in hers, interlacing their fingers. It felt grounding. It felt like home. I'd like that, Lyra whispered. I'd like that a lot. The elevator dinged, signaling the ground floor. The doors opened to the bustle of the terminal arrivals level, but neither of them moved to leave. "Can I keep the scarf?" Lyra asked suddenly. "It smells like you." Thea squeezed her hands. "Only if you promise to return it to me in person. Maybe next Friday." "Friday works," Lyra said. "Friday is perfect." They walked out of the elevator together, not as client and employee, and not as a fake couple performing for an audience. They walked out simply as Lyra and Thea, hand in hand, stepping into the uncertain, wonderful beginning of something real.